This is the time every week when we come together to share those joys and sorrows that have come into our lives. If you have something to share and you're in-house, start making your way up front to my right, stand close. If you're on Zoom, look for the raised hand icon, and as soon as you are recognized, please unmute yourself. When we have anybody that shares a joy, feel free to clap. If we have someone who shares a sorrow, feel free to give the heart sign. If you will, try to keep your remarks short. Remember that we can contact you in the common room when we gather for coffee and snacks. And remember, these are personal. It would be very tempting to do a lot of political stuff, and we'll just...
Friends, we gather today to confront a difficult truth. The dark art of propaganda is not confined in history. It is alive. It is here, and it is being used directly and indirectly to stoke division, to erode trust, and to rewrite the rules of what is acceptable, what is true, what is human. Adolf Hitler's Mein Kampf was more than a manifesto. It was a manual for psychological warfare. It taught how to weaponize fear, how to manufacture enemies, how to turn silence into complicity. Does that sound familiar? And today, we see its echoes, not in the words of the past, but in the algorithms of social media, in the rhetoric of political campaigns, in the way fear is peddled as currency. This is not hyperbole. This is not a metaphor. This is a call to awareness. We are not here to despair. We are here to see, to name. We are here to resist with truth, not with division, but with solidarity, not with silence, but with the courage to speak, to listen, and to act. Let us now enter a moment of quiet reflection, a time to center ourselves in the power of our own voices, our own choices, and our own shared humanity. Let us meditate on what it means to tend the flame of truth in a world that often prefers the dark. Here is the truth. You are not powerless. You are the keeper of the flame. You are the one who names the shadow for what it is. You are the one who chooses curiosity over suspicion, connection over division, truth over lies. Take a deep breath in and exhale slowly. With each breath, let go of the weight of what you cannot control. With each breath, reclaim your power to choose what you believe, what you will share, what you will stand for. Now open your eyes. Look around you. Do we look like we are alone? I don't think so. I see a community. I see friends, family, partners. The flame still burns, and it's our job to keep it. It is ours to tend. Consider this. As we return, let us carry this awareness with us, not as a burden, but as a compass. Let us ask ourselves each day, what voices do I amplify? What shadows do I refuse to name? What flame do I tend? And let us remember, the darkest art of propaganda is not the loudest lie. It is the silencing of truth. Our resistance begins with our refusal to be silent. We must choose no complacency or complicity. Thank you. On this topic, since we're talking about propaganda, how it plays out today, and bringing that into how finances matter in our church, it's important to remember how much this tiny little space does in this much larger area, things that we can control on our own to help in our fight against fascism and propaganda. The way the world works, we do live in a capitalistic society. And we need money to help some of our causes go further. If you are able and willing to help us with that, we do have a number that will pop up on the screen, or we have our offerings to come around that you may place checks or cash into, and they will be gratefully received. Would the ushers please come forward? Thank you so much, Joseph. Wasn't that beautiful? We're so lucky to have his talent here. Thank you, everyone, so much for your generosity and for your aid in our fight. Now I'd like to welcome Chris Garcia.
Thank you. These are the words of Stephen Miller. This was in an interview on CNN with Jake Tapper a few weeks ago. Stephen Miller, who is the closest advisor to number 47. You can talk all you want about international niceties and everything else, but we live in a world, in a real world, Jake, that is governed by strength, that is governed by force, and that is governed by power. These are the iron laws of the world. When I started out on this project, the first thing I noticed that bothered me was how easy it is to get a copy of Mein Kampf. It's easy. Anybody can get it. Now, I did a little work, a little searching around. You can't get a copy of it. You can get a copy of it in Amazon in several languages. You can read it for free. Your kids can read it. Anybody can read it. School kids could read it. You want to get a copy of Heather Has Two Mommies? You can't find it. I checked the library downtown on Telfair. I checked Columbia Library, the one I go to. No. Mein Kampf? Yeah, you can look it up. Huckleberry Finn? Very hard to find in either library. Mein Kampf? No problem. Your kids can read it. Any nut with a gun can read it. Right-wing groups can read it. It's easy to read. It's not an easy read. Hitler was a good thinker in some ways. He knew how to form ideas, but he was not a good writer. It's not much fun to read. They are banning books in libraries here, books on diversity on equality. They are banning books on gay rights and women's rights, but they are not banning Mein Kampf. And that ought to bother you. That scares me, because that is your future. Okay, stop. Okay, everything I said after Stephen Miller is a lie. Okay? How do you feel right now? What's going on inside? Not what do you think, I don't care. How do you feel when you hear that stuff? A little anxious, like a little righteous indignation? Okay. Here's a little fact checking. Actually, Mein Kampf is a really difficult book to get. Banned books, it's actually one of the forbidden books. It's like the Necronomicon for you Lovecraft fans. It's really hard to find a copy. Amazon had one copy, and I had to buy it as an ebook. You can't just get it in English. It had other copies in other languages. They cost more money. But if you want to read Mein Kampf, you got to really want to read it. The library downtown has one lonesome copy. It's got many copies of Huckleberry Finn, no problem. Doesn't have Heather Has Two Mommies. Columbia Library does have Heather Has Two Mommies, got several copies of Huckleberry Finn, and no copy of Mein Kampf, although it does have something that claims to be a sequel. I don't know what that would be. I didn't look. The thing about Mein Kampf, if you were to check it out downtown, you would probably feel a little bit like you're checking out porno or something. I mean, the librarian might look at you funny. And of course, young people probably don't even know what that book is. It is a forbidden book. But what is propaganda? What is fascism? What is Mein Kampf? How does all that stuff work? We're going to take a deep fried dive into the nature of propaganda. In the book Mein Kampf, I read a lot of the autobiography stuff in the front. Hitler had daddy issues, just like number 47. His father wanted him to be a civil servant, and this is one of those traditional German fathers who said, you will be a civil servant, doesn't matter what you want. Young Adolf wanted to be an artist. He wanted to paint people and landscapes, but he wasn't very good at it. And Vienna Art Institute rejected him about 3 times. And then he went into World War I, and he was decorated for valor. He was in the Battle of Flanders, other battles. He was also in the Battle of Ypres, and that was a battle that changed his life. In the Battle of Ypres, German soldier Adolf Hitler was blinded by a mustard gas attack and landed in the hospital with battle wounds and bandages on his eyes, and it looked like he was going to go blind. And he laid in the hospital for weeks, not knowing if he was going to go completely blind or not. And while he was there, Germany surrendered in the Versailles Treaty. And as a combat soldier, he was enraged because he thought they were winning. Everybody told him they were winning. And then suddenly Germany surrendered and was saddled with a war debt. And that made him who he became. He did something you hear about called the beer hall push, which was this kind of klutzy attempt at an insurrection in a bar, a beer hall, and he was thrown in prison. And in 1924, while he was in prison, he wrote Mein Kampf. This was 10 years before he became Chancellor of Germany. And everything that he intended to do and the reasons he laid out for doing it and his personal philosophy are all in that book. And say what you want, everything he said he was going to do, he did. And it changed the world forever. If you really want to understand what happened in the 20th century, a lot of it comes from that book. If you want to understand how propaganda works, that came from that book. Modern propaganda, the stuff you see on television, has its roots in that book. Chapter 8, which was when I really studied for this, was called War Propaganda, where in 1924 he laid out how to do propaganda right. That was a chapter that Goebbels studied especially. He was unimpressed as a soldier with German propaganda. He said German propaganda was stupid. They didn't know what they were doing. The people he admired were the Americans and the English. He said they knew how to do propaganda right. Slide number 2. Please. Keep the Hun out. Learn how to buy war stamps. He said that's the way you do it. He said if you could see the caption, which you can't, it would say, keep the Hun out of your home. There you go. Buy home protection, not country protection, your home protection with war-saving stamps. You see the Hun coming through. He's got teeth. He's got a helmet with a spike on it. He looks like a thug. He looks like a barbarian. There's red and yellow flames behind him, and his jackboot is climbing through a window. And it's the window of a house, your house. It's climbing through your bedroom window where your wife sleeps, where your daughters sleep down the hallway. Ooh, keep the Hun out. He's not even calling him a German. He's not saying keep noble German soldiers out. He's saying keeping the Hun out. Naming your enemy is very important. On the 19th of July, 2 weeks from now, this is part 1. If you want to hear part 2, that'll be 2 Sundays from now. And we'll be talking about language. Keep the Hun out, that jackbooted thug who's going to assault your family. That's the way to do it. He's not talking about ideas. He's talking about emotions. Propaganda consists of 4 elements. And Hitler understood this. The first element is repetition. Second element is flooding the zone, as Steve Bannon calls it. The third element is engineering consent. That's an interesting one. And finally, identity lock, which is really something to understand. You have repetition, flooding the zone, engineering consent, and identity lock. Repetition is where you repeat a lie over and over and over, and the first time you hear it, you don't believe it, but after you've heard it 20 times, you start to think there must be something to it. And then pretty soon, reception becomes reality. People who are racially prejudiced, Jim Crow, these times, nobody starts out that way. Children aren't like that. But they hear it from their adults, they hear it every day, they hear it in their culture, they hear it in the music, they hear it in the jokes, they hear it in the pictures, in the newspapers, and pretty soon perception becomes reality. And that is where racism comes from. Repetition is the key to learning, but it's also the key to deception. Now, flooding the zone. The way Steve Bannon says it is you flood the zone with shit. What you see in modern propaganda especially is you send out so many ideas at once that you can never get your handle around them. You can never really refute them. You see this especially on Sunday political shows when they're interviewing somebody from a politician or more likely a public relations person. There's this thing in debate that's called a Gish Gallop, a Gish Gallop. The Gish Gallop is something, if you ever watched Kellyanne Conway on TV. Kellyanne Conway on the political shows was a Gish Galloper. You would ask her a difficult question, and she would just vomit out paragraphs of claims without giving the interviewer a word in edgewise, blah, 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 and then blah, 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 and then blah, 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 and this, and then blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And by the time you could get her to stop talking, so many ideas had been thrown out that there was no one idea that you could fact check or debate about. You flood the zone with words over and over. The words don't have to be true, they just have to be words. And you flood it until all the other ideas are washed out. The 2020 election was stolen. Really? There's no evidence of that, but a lot of people believe it. Why? Repetition and flooding the zone. That's why a lot of people believe the election was stolen, even though no evidence has ever been found for it, and 60 court cases were thrown out over it. Repetition and flooding the zone with shit. Now, the third one is something kind of dear to my heart. It's called engineering of consent. One of the fundamentals of writing fiction is there is no drama in happiness. Think about that. Think about every movie and show and story you ever read. There is no drama in happiness. Tolstoy said, happy families are all the same. Unhappy families are unhappy each in their own way. So fascist propaganda and political propaganda is largely based on grievance. What was I talking to you about? Grievance. They're coming for your books. The Haitians are eating your cats and your dogs. Oh, the world is going to hell. Oh my God. If I talk to you about how great everything is, you're not going to believe me anyway. But if I lie to you about how bad everything is, yeah, you'll believe that. Engineering consent. How do you engineer consent? By going straight over the reason and to the emotions. In Mein Kampf, one of the things that comes across is Hitler didn't like people very much. He had contempt for people in general. He said there were three kinds of people And remember, he wrote this 10 years before becoming the Fuhrer. He said you have intellectuals who sit in chairs and blather on and on about ideas, kind of like me. And you have people who think scientifically. Scientifically, yes, these are the politics, and this is the economy, and this is how science works. And then you have everybody else, the masses, who he referred to as the great group of idiots. That was his opinion of people in general. He said, you're never going to reach the intellectuals. You're never going to reach the critical thinkers. But if you use repetition, if you flood the zone with shit, and if you appeal to their emotions, like, say, grievance, then you can reach them. The Hun, keep the Hun out. There's nothing intellectual about that. Is the Hun coming in your bedroom window? No, but what if he did? Oh my God. So you got to buy those war saving stamps, no matter what. He said that's the right way to do it. A critical thinker, a scientific thinker would think, well, that's not possible. We're protected by the Atlantic Ocean. But masses will look at that and they will be afraid anyway. And that is how you rally them. Engineering of consent. Bypass the mind, go to the emotions, especially the fearful survival emotions. How about slide number 2? You've all heard of the Marlboro Man, right? You ever heard of the Marlboro Woman? Maybe not. How many of you here smoke or have smoked tobacco? Oh, that's all? And you think I'm a liar? Really? Come on. Marlboro cigarettes. Interesting. Now you look at the writing. Forward, emotional, warm, an elegant woman. Oh, ladies, you tired housewives. Don't you wish you could be that elegant, sexy woman with the nice red gloves and the Marlboro cigarette pining over her soldier? How about slide number 3? Gee, Mommy, you sure enjoy your Marlboros. Yes, you never need to feel oversmoked. Oversmoked? With Marlboro cigarettes. Gee, Mommy, thank you for smoking your Marlboros. Now, that didn't work. Women didn't buy Marlboro cigarettes. They bought cigarettes, probably the cheapest ones they could afford, but they didn't smoke Marlboros. That was a flop. So around the time when I was a kid, they decided to overhaul the Marlboro cigarette ad so that they could engineer consent. How do you do that? How do you bypass that? Reason and go to your emotions? Nobody says that smoking's good for you. Smoking is an unusual addiction because the first couple cigarettes you try make you sick. Your body doesn't want smoke in its lungs. You got to really try hard to get hooked on cigarettes after that first couple cigarettes. How do they do that? Well, they wanted to figure that out too. So they hired psychologists, Jungian psychologists who know a lot about symbols. I know there's a lot of people here, including tarot card fans like me, who have an interest in symbols and how the mind connects to them. So they had Jungian psychologists work out a way to make this an appealing cigarette for a man. And they came up with slide number 4, the Marlboro Man. There he is. Smoke Marlboros? No, come to Marlboro country, where the flavor is. Marlboro country, what is that? It's a man, not just a work-a-daddy kind of guy, not a factory guy, a cowboy with his horse, his faithful horse and a Marlboro cigarette. He doesn't have a crazy wife. He doesn't have kids who are begging him for money and calling him a loser. He doesn't have a stupid job that doesn't mean anything to him. or a stupid boss that bullies him. Nobody ever bullied that guy, man. No, not in a million years would you bully that guy. He'd straighten you out. Oh, and also he smokes Marlboro cigarettes. Don't you wish you could be that guy? That's the man every man wants to be and every woman wants. Oh yeah, you may not admit it. That's your guy. So they changed the box. They changed the emotional consent of smoking a Marlboro cigarette. I can see that because when I wanted to be a writer, when I was a kid, I saw photographs of my heroes, Rod Serling and Hemingway and guys. They're all sitting at a typewriter with a cigarette and a cup of coffee. And I thought, that's what a writer looks like. You got to have a typewriter and a cigarette and a cup of coffee. But I didn't smoke. Now, before I leave this slide, here's a riddle for you. All you Jungian psychology fans. In that picture, there are 3 erect phalluses, if you know where to look for them. And if you don't know, I'll promise you, your unconscious mind sees them. If you don't know where they are, ask me later and I'll show you where they are. You know, we got kids here. Right. What's a phallus? Okay. So, the 4th principle of propaganda is identity lock. This is very relevant to us. It's also very relevant if you've ever tried to change somebody's mind about something, especially politics over Thanksgiving. Hitler said that all these things are to create community, identity. Once your beliefs become a part of who you think you are, it's really difficult to change your mind. That is what Hitler wanted. That's what politicians want. That's what people who try to sell you stuff like, come to Marlboro country, you can be one of those Marlboro guys. Identity lock. I am MAGA. I'm a Baptist. I'm a Unitarian. I don't know how many people here even know what Unitarian theology is, but you're a Unitarian. If anybody asks you, that's what you are. And like Marissa said, it just got my missionary zeal about being a Unitarian every time I saw somebody new here. Identity lock, you create a community. And how do you do that? Grievance. You give them an enemy to hate. So, Mein Kampf, the vision that Hitler proposes in Mein Kampf for Germany, is what it was he had a word for Volks something, but it's like a Germanness, being pure German. He meant that genetically, the Aryan race is pure German and nobody else. German culture and no other culture. German nationality and no other nationalities. He didn't even like Eastern Europe. He didn't like any other kind of human being except Germans. That's what fascism is. What is fascism? Fascism was originally, I believe, a Greek word, and it was symbolized by a fist holding several stalks of wheat together. And the idea was that if you had a bundle of something, you couldn't break it. It had to be together. It had to be united. One thing, one concept, one culture. So his idea of Germanness was to have one definition of a human German. You have to be this or you're not really a proper human being. And the only proper human being is a German, white, and straight, and more or less Christian. They were socialists, national socialists. Religion was only a means to an end for them. He wasn't a serious religious person. But he wanted to create an identity that people could say, I am one of that tribe. I am a pure German. And everybody else had to go. How do you do that? You have to define also what is not a German. What is not German is anybody who is, say, Jewish or communist or from another country. And he hated Jews from the beginning. He hated Jews when he was laying in a hospital with bandages on his head. I'm not sure why, but he just hated Jews. Now, he made an exception for the doctor, the Jewish doctor who took care of his mother when she was dying from cancer. That Jewish doctor was very kind to his mother, and he remembered him, and he made arrangements for him to be quietly smuggled out of Germany when things got rough. But he needed to give people someone to hate that was legitimate to hate. It's not just enough to hate. You have to engineer consent. And how do you engineer consent? Through repetition and flooding the zone and appealing to grievance. That's how racism and segregation start. And that was how Hitler rallied people against the common enemy, the Jews. Did he call them Jews? He called them vermin. He had posters of rats in suits and hats, and Juden, and these were vermin, because he needed to give people not only a sense of Germanness, but what was not German. Today, you see the same thing in immigrants. Trump's first wife, Ivana, was from Czechoslovakia. Melania is from Slovenia. His mother was from Scotland. His grandfather, who started the family fortune, was from Germany. They're all immigrants. No problem for him. But immigrants are a rallying cry for grievance and fear and instability. We just found our way through a plague, COVID. People are feeling pretty insecure right now. They're being afraid. The economy's wobbling up and down. They're worried about their jobs, affordability. Oh, this is a great time for somebody to step in and say, you know what the problem is? It's immigrants. Immigrants are the problem. The other thing that Hitler believed is that the Germanness, the Aryans, the perfect German, these are the creators of culture. The great cultures of the West came from Germany. And this was at a time of the Great Depression. It was at a time when war debt had crushed Germany, which was something that the Allies did to them. And so for somebody to tell them, you are the creators of culture, you are the great people, people needed to hear that. You know, violence and exclusivity aside, it gave people something to be proud of. The country that gave you Beethoven and Schopenhauer and Goethe and these great people, they needed to be reminded of that, and Hitler did that. And what about now? You have grievance because of the immigrants. But what is the solution for that? Real Americans. Who are the real Americans? I think the first time I heard that phrase was from Sarah Palin talking to country folks, small town folks, the salt of the earth, to come to where the flavor is, folks. You're the real Americans. These other people from big cities, these liberals, they're not the real Americans. You're the real Americans. That is how you create identity lock. I want to be a real American. Oh, I thought I had to smoke cigarettes to be a real writer. No, but you want to be a real American. So that means you should do this and that and the other thing. And these other funny people who come from other cultures, no. Hitler also said that you have to unite the media, you have to unite universities, you have to unite the newspapers, and he went right after newspapers that were run by Jewish editors. You have to unite the culture into one voice, one narrative. Narrative is important. One narrative, one culture, one people, and that is how you create identity lock. And anybody who doesn't fit into that template is an enemy. Today you see that in the performative politics, which use social media to try to create a single narrative. One of the last things that Hitler was saying in this book is that you can't have rival leaders. You can't have rival viewpoints. You must have one great man, the one great man at the top of everything who leads it. Today you hear the phrase, "I alone can fix it." That was the promise that was made years and years ago. It's not fixed yet. I alone can fix it. So, one culture, one race, one narrative, one great leader, fascism. Now, what I want you to know is that myself, I'm very optimistic about the future. I think it's going to be okay. Hey, would I lie to you? Come on. Nah, never. When I saw the uprising in Minneapolis, kind of my hometown, I was very proud of them. Portland Avenue, where that shooting was, I used to live on Portland Avenue when I was a kid. I was very proud of that. I'm proud of the way pop culture has resisted. Stephen Colbert, when they fired him off of CBS, it liberated him. When they took the funding away from public broadcasting, they lost the only leverage that they had over that message. I am very optimistic about the future. And the children, the young people, those are the ones who especially make me optimistic about it. They are well adapted for what's happening here. I don't think we all see it, but I do believe it when I look at it, or at least when I look at the kids here. I think the kids here are very well adapted not to be lied to. Our generation, my generation, we believed in everything that we were told in the 50s, the government, the army, they were all wonderful. And then institution by institution, we realized had been lying to us. My generation became cynical because we realized after the fact that we were being lied to. Young people today, they know they're being lied to. That's good. You should know that. That's the only defense you have. Resistance. The polls give me optimism. This community gives me optimism. There is still a strong resistance to what's happening. And the people who are making it happen are not very good at it. That helps me too. I think there's a lot of hope for this future. Do you believe in kindness? Do you believe in empathy? Do you believe that these things really have power? We like to think that we do. Now we're going to find out. Amen.
Would you rise in body or spirit for our closing hymn, number 119, Once to Every Soul and Nation.
area?
It's right there.
Okay, good.
All righty. This is how fascism will come. When fascism comes to America, it will be wrapped in the flag and carrying a cross. This is often attributed to Sinclair Lewis. When fascism comes, it will greet us with a smile. It will get down on its knees to pray. It will praise Main Street and Wall Street. It will cheer for the home team. It will clap from the bleachers when the uninsured are left to die on the street. It will rally on the Washington Mall. Sorry. It will raise monuments to its heroes and weep for them and place bouquets at their stone feet and trace their fingers the names engraved on the granite wall and go on sending soldiers to die in the mountains of Afghanistan and the deserts of Iraq. It will send doves to pluck out the eyes of its enemies, having no hawks to spare. When fascism comes, it will sit down for tea with the governor of Texas. It will pee in the mosques from California to Tennessee, chanting, "Wake up, America, the enemy is here." It will sing the anthems of corporatization, privatization, demonization, and monopolization. It will be interviewed lovingly on talk radio. It'll have talking points and a Facebook page and a disdain for big words or hard consonants. It won't bother to read. It will shred all its books. It will lambast the teachers and outlaw the unions. When fascism comes, it will look good. It will have big hair, pressed suits, lapel pins. It will control all the channels. It will ride in on swift boats. It will sit on the Supreme Court. It will court us with fear. It will woo us with hope. When fascism comes, it will sell shares of itself on the stock market. Yes. It will get rich, then it will get obscenely rich. Then it will stop paying taxes. It will leave us in the dust. It will kick our ass. It won't have to break a sweat to fool us twice. It will be too big to fail. When fascism comes to America, it will enter on the winds of our silence and indifference and complacency. Thank you.